Hey all, thank you very much for jumping on to this week's episode of the iPPi Insider. We've been missing for a couple of weeks, but we're back now with Kyle Scott, who's jumping on for round two. Kyle is responsible for Ryan Serhant. I'm sure many of you know. He's responsible for the digital product side of the business. He joined Ryan's team in 2019 after being in the TV industry for quite some time. Am I right, Kyle?
Yes. So I was at NBCUniversal at NBC News for nearly 10 years before coming to work for Ryan. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the US TV market, NBCUniversal is one of the top companies, and NBC News is number one for news network. And it's been such a wild ride. And I use everything that I learned there about how to build audiences, how to interact with audiences now in this digital product business.
Super. So just on that, obviously you've been doing this for long before you met Ryan, and just touching off that, the story and the journey, we spoke about it in the last time we spoke about, how important that is to get more business in, and what you're portraying across on, podcast down to video is so important. So like, how did you bring that sort of TV experience into your current day-to-day job?
Look, it's all about storytelling. Anything that anyone does in any business, right? It starts with what is the story? And I know for you, like, you're raising money right now for your company, right? A big part of that pitch deck that you put together is, what is this business and what is the opportunity? How do you tell that? It's the story. Before you can even get into like the finances and the projections, right? The data, you have to get your investors to believe in the story. It's the same way if you're selling any products, and we sell knowledge products, right? We help our real estate agent clients earn their limitless livelihood through mastery of sales. But before we can even talk about the features and what you're going to learn, we have to talk about the story. And the story for us comes down to Ryan's story about how he started out. He wanted to be an actor in New York City, right? He tried at that. That was the only thing that he really tried at and wanted to do. But he ended up making it onto a soap opera, being killed off on the soap opera, and ran out of money and needed to find a way to sell and to make money. And he turned to real estate. So Ryan wasn't a born salesman, but he learned it over time. And through that process of learning it over time, right, going from this person who ran out of money and was a failed actor to being the #1 real estate in New York City, #3 in the country, and starting his own firm, which is the most followed brand in real estate. Through that journey is how we've built all of our courses and all of our programs. And we can help you too, right, as our student, to take the same journey that Ryan has taken. Then from there, once you understand where we're coming from, right, then we could talk to you all about our programs and what you actually get with the programs, but it starts with the story.
Super. So, how have you and the team, with digital products and selling, online, how have you really leveraged on that story, and how could agents maybe take nuggets from this who haven't spent, a lot of money, let's say, on marketing, or, spent it on building their brand? How can they really get down to the grassroots of getting a brand and building it so that more people can kind of engage with you so that they can do more business?
Remember, it always starts with brand, right? Real estate agents have one job. One job. Do you know what that one job is?
I can hazard a guess.
Yeah, hazard the guess.
Hazard the guess. I'd say being trusted and put their face out in multiple places, expose themselves to the widest possible audience.
And you do all of that to generate leads. That's your one job as a real estate agent, is create connections with people who want to buy or sell homes. Maybe not today, maybe sometime in the future. Right? But create connections and generate leads. And how do you do that? You do that by being a regular person and being a friend, because people hate being sold, but they love shopping with friends. And what do you do with your friends? You tell stories all day long. You have an identity and a persona, and you have a backstory that supports that, right? So if you look at yourself as a character in your own story, right? What is the consistent identity, the core identity that you want to put out into the world, right? That's your character story. What is the consistent content that you need to put out on all of the platforms to reinforce that identity? And then how do you shout it from the mountaintop, right? Meaning, how do you amplify your message with third parties by putting yourself in front of new in-person audiences, by getting other people to follow you and to like you and to trust you, right? That is the core of the brand identity part. But it's all about your journey as a person and as a character, right? You're not just a real estate salesperson, because there are thousands. There's 80,000 real estate agents here in New York City. 80,000. And what that means is you have to stand out in a way that is so different from real estate. And you do that through your personal identity, through your story, through your backstory. So for everyone who's listening to this, who wants to stand out using storytelling, look at your favorite characters in movie, TV show, or books, right? How do they stand out? What makes them memorable? It's not the thing that they do in the plot. It's the entire backstory. It's the entire personality that the author or the writer gives to that character. And you want to make yourself the same exact way.
And just going a little deeper on how let's say you set out that strategy, let's say with Ryan and his digital products. Obviously, he had a great story to tell, but it's kind of reinforcing that story on a consistent basis.
Yes.
How did you set those foundations? Because let's be honest, he set off as someone who he isn't right now. And what key elements or points could you give people who are listening to this, that would help them set off on a similar journey, or even reinvent the journey that they've started?
We have to make it, we think about how to make him more than just a real estate agent, right? How do you give him real traits that are real traits? He's a real person. He's not a fake character like a TV show, but like, how do you give him those personality traits so that when we're putting it out into the world, that Ryan Serhant knows what he's doing and you can learn from him, right? Mm-hmm. How do we show that it's not just he sells all day long, right? Ryan also has a backstory. If you look at his Instagram, right, you'll see he posts all the time about his family. He posts all the time about his losses and how to overcome those losses, right? It's not just about closing deals all day, every day. It's things don't go the right way also, right? He's a human character in that story. So by making him more human and relatable, you're able to build followers, because people like following real people, not just like robotic brands that are just like a sales machine, right? And then by building that relatability, we can then explain to people how we can help them achieve Ryan's similar level of Ryan's career success. And so it all starts with, it also, no matter what you're selling, and for real estate agents especially too, you have to approach it as being a human, right? You're a human first. You're a well-rounded person first, and then you're a salesperson, right? Then you're talking about the products that you're talking about, because people hate being sold, but they love shopping with friends.
Yeah, and on that, obviously, he's very authentic in his approach, because he's got that previous, experience of having nothing and building it to where he is now as one of the most successful agents worldwide. That journey for a lot, and I'm seeing it more and more with the bigger brands, the bigger companies who have been in the market for X amount of times, who are losing their staff, and they're trying to find, right, well, how do we create this authentic, and how do we allow our agents to be authentic within the brand? And I find it really interesting at this moment in time, when more agents are pushing out and going out on their own and setting off on their own journey. But it's like, well, how do I capture my past experience in the brand I've been hiding from?
I think what I would say is agents, right? We believe fundamentally that agents should have their own brand and their identity separate from their brokerage. And why? It's the same reason that I've been saying this whole time. People hate being sold, but they love shopping with friends. Real estate and any sales is a people business at the end of the day, right? You want to relate to the person, the individual agent, rather than the brokerage house, right? Here at Serhant, we encourage all of the agents who hang their license here to create their own identity, to create their own YouTube show, to create their own website that's not just on serhant.com. Because when they go out into the world and have their own identity, that's what draws in clients, right? That's what draws in leads, who then our agents become friends with. They generate genuine relationships with, and then our agents become a lot more of an advisor, right? A home advisor, a real estate advisor than a salesperson. And that's where you build those lifelong relationships that the clients will always come back to you. The clients will always be referring to you because you're a person first.
How would agents, let's say, or valuers that you guys deal with on a day-to-day basis and in the project, like how would they set off starting to build, the knowledge products that you excellently sell for Ryan in Serhant Ventures? How would they even, like, let's just say simple ebooks or video content, or where would they start?
Within real estate, we always encourage agents to help them generate leads to produce thought leadership content, right? And we call that a lead magnet, right? In marketing, if you're going to use that and not create a whole separate business for it, because for most agents, you're not going to create a course business, but you are going to use free knowledge products as lead magnets to bring in, to share your expertise and bring people in, right? So you start with understanding it always starts with understanding who is your target market, right? And even before that, it starts with understanding what? Your brand, your core identity, right? Who are you? So if you want to pick a real estate agent, you have to understand who you are and what your unique value proposition is in your market. Who is your ideal buyer? And then where are their information gaps, right? What do those people need to know that you as the expert real estate agent can provide them, right? It's very easy. And then I'll take a step back here and explain that it's very easy right now to search online. For example, pick New York City, right? Tribeca neighborhood things to do, right? But how do you trust that's from an authoritative source? The internet is free. There's so much information out there. How do you know that this is actually authoritative, right? By branding yourself, right? If you want to brand yourself as the Tribeca neighborhood specialist, because you know everything about Tribeca, that's going to be your core identity, right? Tribeca things to do plus real estate agent, right? Plus real estate sales. You're then going to create the Tribeca neighborhood guide that lists all the things to do. You're going to have a newsletter that goes out every week or every month talking about the latest happenings, right? Is there a community barbecue at the picnic, right? Or at the park, right? Is there a picnic? Is there a park cleanup day? Whatever it might be, you always want to be putting information out onto your social platforms about that thing that you want to be known for, which is Tribeca neighborhood. You know everything happening in Tribeca neighborhood. But you've defined that by going all the way back to your brand. It's not just something random that you decided to do. You decided the way I'm going to identify myself and my core identity is going to be the Tribeca neighborhood expert. So then from that, you're going to produce all of your thought leadership content, for the most part, about that area of expertise.
Nice. So your newsletter, pairing it with the area that you're operating in.
Every single touch point. We call it consistent content, right? Every single touch point, your newsletter, all of your social platforms, and we can have a whole separate conversation about whether you should be on TikTok or Instagram or LinkedIn, right? In the most realized form, you should be on all of it. But the reality is that solo agents or even agents who are just starting up, it takes a lot of work to be on all platforms at all times, right? There are full companies who are on all platforms at all times, and they have a marketing staff of like 30 to be able to do that, right? So you have to identify what's most important to you to reach your audience.
So if you had some tips, let's say, for agents to get into that knowledge-based, thought leadership mentality of creating content that's going to engage with the right, where would you, let's say, three to five tips that you'd recommend them starting off from? I know I might be catching you.
No, again, it starts with I have I don't know how many steps it'll be, but it starts, like I said earlier, it starts with your brand. Right? That always, remember, as a real estate person, you own your own business. It's the business of you, or maybe you have an assistant, or maybe you have a junior agent or whatever it is, but you are a business. So the question becomes, who are you selling to? And guess what? It's not everybody in your market. It's not all people of all ages in all places in my neighborhood. That's not specific enough to differentiate yourself, right? You have to first go back to who is my target market. And once you define your target market, right, you build the brand and the identity around what that target market really needs, what they really need, right? So that's step one, identify the target market. Step two, identify your core identity. Step three is produce consistent content that speaks to that target market, right? Step four would then be everywhere you go and every single touch point, shout it from the mountaintop, who your client is that you serve and what the solutions are that you provide, right? That's what it is. And then you layer in, if those are the 4 main steps, you then layer in sort of vertically the like tasks or to-dos, right? The specific tactics underneath each one, right? So under the consistent content bucket, it absolutely is create a newsletter, right? It absolutely is put out neighborhood guides or how-to guides based on the needs of your target market, right? And then you're going to run ads, like take the Tribeca neighborhood guide, for example. You're going to produce ads on Facebook, on LinkedIn, whatever you determine is your best platform to use, that speak specifically to the pain points that your target market have, right? What are the pain points that someone who wants to buy in Tribeca has right now? And how does your free download, right, your free lead magnet solve for that pain point? That's how you're going to get a lead. And then you're going to follow up with that lead. You're going to try to have a conversation with that lead, determine what their real needs are, determine are they a real buyer or seller today, or is this going to be someone who's a buyer or seller 7 years from now? And then follow up consistently with consistent content. So when that person really is ready to buy or sell, they don't think of anyone but you because you've been telling them for the past 7 years, you're the Tribeca neighborhood expert. Like that's it.
Yeah. It's not rocket science, really, is it?
No, there's a nice it's literally not rocket science. There's a nice formula to it, right? We find like a lot of agents get sort of lost in like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Always go back to your target market. Who is the population I'm looking to serve? And what is the solution? How am I serving them? And what is the solution I'm providing for them, right? That's it. That's the North Star. Who am I serving? Who's my target? How can I help them? If you constantly put out the content that helps them, you'll get that leads and then people will think of you and they're ready to buy or sell a home in that market.
Based on your last couple of months, obviously it's been an exciting time launching the new side of the business, both the team and ventures. What are some of your key learnings from the experience? Obviously, there's been a lot.
That's a great. It's a wonderful question. For me, it's always about balancing revenue with back-end support, right? That's always the consistent challenge that I'm facing. Like, how do we go so far in revenue, not to overbuild back office, right? Not to overbuild support, but only build when we need to because the revenue is going in that direction, but also keep up with the revenue because you don't want the revenue to go so far ahead that you don't have the support to support the revenue and the whole thing topples over. I think of it, and the reason why I'm going like this is that I think of it a lot like a diving board, right? On a pool, right? The diving board it sticks out over the water and you have a nice base, right? The diving board can keep going further and further and further, but at a certain point, that diving board, if you don't extend the base, is going to crack. It's either going to crack or the whole thing's going to tip into the pool. And then you don't have a diving board anymore, right? So you always have to go reinforce the base as that diving board gets longer.
Nice. And some of the key learnings I would say, from the e-commerce side of the business, it's constantly adapting. Everything online is changing. You're obviously growing exponentially, which is great to see. How do you guys get involved? How do agents get involved? Because I've after our last one, I've heard a couple of people reaching out. They were like, get Kyle on again. Where do they go? What do they do?
Yes, if you go to ryanserhant.com/course, it has all the information about the Sell Like Serhant program. And within there, we're actually redoing the website. So that'll come, there'll be a whole new explanation of what it is coming soon. And the reason why I say that is because as the business has evolved, the business has changed, right? We started as one course, and we had a membership and we had a third level called Pro. All three of those levels, what we used to call levels, have gone so much further than where we started that we now have 7,000 enrollees in 108 countries, much bigger than where we were in mid 2019 when we launched. So with that comes the constant evolution, and you're going to continue to see ryanserhant.com/course evolve to keep up with our story as we write the story of where we're going.
And in terms of some of the, let's say, objections that you may get from Irish agents, let's nip it in the bud here. Like, I can see the power of you guys building around the brand. Obviously, it's going to be relatable in Ireland and not just America.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, sales is sales, no matter where you sell, because there's the fundamental truth, which is real estate agents need one thing. right? Which is to generate leads. That's their only job. And by generating leads, you're making friends. It's a people business, and people are people no matter where you go, right? Yes, the homes are going to be different, right? The homes that you're selling in Ireland are going to be different than the homes that are being sold in New York City or anywhere in the United States. The laws around real estate transactions are going to be different, but that's not real estate sales. Real estate sales is generating leads and then closing those leads, right? There are plenty of other courses out there where you can learn all about the law. You can all learn all about construction and what goes into a home. But really, sales at the end of the day is a people business, and people are the same no matter what it is you sell and where it is that you sell it.
Nice. Listen, I'm conscious of your time. We got five or six more minutes, and then you're jumping off. In terms of what we've looked at now, from the first part to the second part, what would you believe? And as an agent, or I think agents are classified, they should be digital marketeers, right? In nowadays, they're not just, you're not just, no more door-to-door sales. You can reach more people online if you put your efforts and concentration into not spreading yourself too thin, but going deep on one or two platforms.
Yes.
Getting in control of that and then going on to the next. What would you believe, right, as an agent, because there's this key trend at the moment across Ireland and the UK of guys, franchise models coming in and agents coming out of the bigger brands that have been here for 10, 20 years. How do they start?
How does a real estate agent start? Or
having worked in, let's say, a corporate environment in real estate, and now you're going in on your own, and you're like,
go to ryanserhant.com/course and join the course. That's part of, and the membership community, that really is part of it, right? Because that course, our core course, it's just called Sell Like Serhant, the course, really is the fundamentals for everything that you need to know as a real estate agent. And again, it's not the law, it's not the houses, it's designed to help you generate leads, because that is the biggest, right? That is the biggest driver of your business if you're just getting started. How much business am I getting to me? Because you're an independent contractor, right? So no one's necessarily giving you deals to do. That's how you make money, on deals. You need to go out and find the leads and build the deals yourself. And you do that through learning how to generate leads. The thing that's going to keep you in the business is making sure you have enough lead flow. So that's where the Sell Like Serhant program really comes in. And that's really where our membership community, our supportive membership community, comes into play. But what I would say is if you don't want to do that, where I would start is, believe it or not, with mindset. And it took me a really long time, in my 10 years at NBC, until I really started learning from Ryan, to understand that mindset is not this squishy topic, like that is just like, mindset, let me go meditate, right? That's not what it is. It really is framing yourself and framing the way you approach your work for success. And it starts, if you're coming from a corporate job and you're going out on your own as a real estate agent, it's remembering that you are a business. And what you did in that corporate job is no different from what you have to do as a real estate agent. That's your mindset shift, right? Mm-hmm. It's, you have to have marketing, you have to have sales, you have to have your finances in order. You have to have an operations team, which is the one that's doing the listings. All of that is packaged into one. You are a one-person business until you grow. So understanding that, and remember that you're running a business and you're not just, running a person. I mean, you sort of are, but you're running a business. And it all comes down to marketing, finances, sales, operations.
How is it, one last question, how is it, working with one of the biggest figures in real estate over the last coming years, probably in one of his most exciting ventures that he's doing? I mean, it must be. I love it.
It's so much fun. Like, the energy level is so high, right? Like, there's always something right around the corner, and Ryan just loves pushing forward every single day. And the thing that drew me to him was his motto, right? Expansion always in all ways. I love that. It makes it fun every single day. And I learned something from him every single day. Like, he is the ultimate salesperson. It's amazing. It really is. What he can do and how he can generate leads and how he can close deals. And there's something in all of that all of us can learn and should apply to our careers, whatever it is that we do, whether we're selling real estate or not.
Kyle, you're an absolute gentleman. Thank you so much for joining us again for number 2. I'm sure we'll catch up over the coming months. I'll leave Kyle's details below along with the course. He's a very open guy that you can reach out to him directly or DM me myself.
Yeah, DM me at Kyle Scott Original. Always happy to chat.
Brilliant. Kyle, thank you very much for your time and have a great day.
Okay,
Cheers.
Thank you for having me. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.